Welcome into WagerTalk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Rob Vino and Tony Mejia of WagerTalk.com. We're talking Saturday college football, late night, 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, Robbie. We got the Arizona State Sun Devils and the Utah Utes here. We're seeing Arizona State -1. Some sports books have it as a pick'em, 51 being the total in Salt Lake. You liking anything in the Pac-12 after dark, Robbie?
Yeah, it's interesting, Drew, because last week you could have listed Arizona State against UCLA as a Pac-12 South showdown. Arizona State wins that game, and now you basically have another showdown. ASU 3-0 inside the league, and Utah now 2-0 inside the league, or inside the division. So this becomes a big game for both. For Utah, it's strange how things work out, Drew, but I had thought to start the season that the addition of Charlie Brewer at quarterback was going to be the ticket for Utah to win the South Division. Charlie Brewer exits the team after 2.5 games, and in steps Cam Rising. And Cameron Rising, since he became the quarterback of this team, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. Last week, he's 22 of 28 for 306 yards. 7 of those completions go for 15 or more yards, which, Utah football under Kyle Whittingham isn't known for explosive plays downfield, but that's what they've gotten with him running the show right now. Kyle Whittingham, quote, when talking about Cameron Rising, he said, "He's an alpha dog. He's the leader of our offense." And Cam Rising said, "There's a lot more offensive chemistry being developed now. I'm getting a lot more comfortable inside the huddle." So a lot good going on for Utah, a team which the first couple of weeks into the season after they lost to San Diego State, maybe some had written off. This match is up to be a pretty good quarterback duel with Rising against Jaden Daniels. We don't have to go over the superlatives for Jaden Daniels. Obviously, most know he's a terrific dual threat quarterback. When you look at the difference between these two teams, it's hard to find a lot because they're so similar. Maybe on the defensive side of the football, you can look to quarterback pressures. Arizona State's been really good, 21 sacks so far this season. Utah only has 14. But they do have one common opponent in BYU, where if you look at that game statistically, ASU gave up 361 yards. Utah gave up 368 yards. So again, these two teams like to do the same things. They like to run the football. They like to play physical defense. And if you look at the total plays per game for these two teams this year, it might lead you to the under in this contest. I think it opened 51. It's been pushed down to 50.5. But the way that Herm Edwards wants to play methodical offense and the way that Kyle Whittingham wants to play methodical offense, if you take the Utah games, they're averaging 135.5 total plays per game. It's not a big number. That's like 67.5 per team. Not a big number for college football. ASU's even lower. Their games only get 124.5 snaps. Herm Edwards, like I say, has gone to this very, I don't want to call it turtles pace, but it kind of is for college football nowadays. Arizona State, although they're not getting off a lot of plays, they try for quick strikes. They've got 10 TDs outside the red zone. But to counteract that, Utah's only given up 3 of those such plays. So I think the Utah defense will keep everything underneath. Arizona State's only given up 2 touchdowns outside the red zone. I think they'll keep everything underneath. These two teams are going to force each other to go the length of the field to get any type of score against one another. For those reasons, I think this game's going to go under the total, especially when I saw that last week against an air raid offense in USC, Utah held them to 18 points for 59 plus minutes. USC got a meaningless touchdown inside the last minute of that game, but only 18 points for USC at home. Utah defense is really good. Arizona State defense is really good. For those who play first and second half, quick notes here. Arizona State in the second half this year is 5-1 under the total. However, Utah second half this year is 4-1 over the total. So those two may cancel each other out. Utah in first half action was 0-4 against the spread until last week when they covered the first half against USC. Now they're 1-4. I like this game under the total. I think under 50.5, pretty good spot. Game where defenses and slower paced offense grinds the clock and keeps it under.
Sure, could see it, Rob. And Tony, coming to you next. The under. Rob put out some good stats for it. Two well-coached teams here in Arizona State and Utah. What do you like in Pac-12 After Dark, Tony?
Well, I'm with Rob on the first half potentially being a feeling out process for both teams, but I like the over in this game. I think there's a ton at stake for Arizona State. They're looking for a one-game lead and the head-to-head over the only two teams with one loss in UCLA and the Utes. So it's an important game from that standpoint. And one of the things that has held back Arizona State earlier in the season were penalties. And they've kind of cleaned that up, and Daniels is so dynamic. And then we have Cam Rising, who has essentially transformed the Utah offense with what he's been able to do. Reigning offensive player of the week in the Pac-12, completing passes at such a high level. He's got a stable of backs behind him that's now completely intact because Michael Bernard's shoulder was unexpectedly better than anticipated. So he actually, although he got banged up against Washington State, was able to perform. And they have a really deep complement of backs that can get you diversify that offense. And Arizona State dealing with injuries on defense. Defensive backs Chase Lucas and Evan Fields are questionable. Herm Edwards said hopefully they're able to play. Michael Matus, a defensive end, also questionable. So Arizona State might be down three guys, and they're too deep on that defensive side of the ball on the road. And again, I think that in the second half, they're going to have to open things up. And the methodical approach probably won't be enough to play from ahead. Unless they're playing from ahead, won't be something that they'll be able to sustain on the road in Salt Lake City, which is probably the best home atmosphere in the Pac-12. You get all those fans at Utah really raining booze down upon you. It's going to be difficult for Daniels to execute that offense unless they're playing from ahead. So maybe mistakes come into play. I think Rising with the offense coming off a 42-point performance against USC, where they were saying he couldn't miss between the second and third quarters. He was 13 of 15 with 2 touchdowns. I think they'll be able to move the football against Arizona State. Interestingly enough, we're actually going to get a cold weather game, which we haven't seen much yet this season, because it seems like it's 80 to 90 degrees everywhere. It's going to feel like it's 35 in Salt Lake, and the temperature is actually going to dip into the low 30s. So maybe from that standpoint, you want to stay away from this total. But I just think it's too low. I really like it as an in-game bet if it starts slow to take advantage of maybe if the total slips into the 40s in-game. But for our full game purposes, I will play contrarian to Rob and like the over.
Hopefully you guys enjoy the game in the Pac-12, a key game between Arizona State and Utah. Find Rob and Tony at WagerTalk. Also remember, $9 Mondays, each and every Monday. All plays from all handicappers discounted to just $9. Check it out, WagerTalk.com.